Yeah, LTL true crime, we going deep in the dark. Yeah, peeling back the layers, expose the hidden mark. From the streets to the alleys where the secrets lie, getting into minds of the wicked, no alibi. LTL true crime, unraveling the web of evil. No stone left unturned, we dive into the pond. Yeah, we digging up the dirt, bringing justice to the crime. LTL true crime, unveiling dark realities every time. Yeah, LTL true crime, we going deep in the dark. Peeling back the layers, expose the hidden mark. From the streets to the alleys where the secrets lie, getting into minds of the wicked, no alibi. LTL true crime, I go. We go get live in the shine, but then I'm not talking, baby, they got so. People go pussy no bone. No can you wait your life. Good now, you wait your love. We better hit that. You'll be hit that, hit that. Better than money that blows. Yeah, I think real true crime. You know what dark realities every time. This year. Yeah, I think real true crime. You know what dark realities every time. Yeah, LTL true crime. We going deep in the dark. Yeah, peeling back the layers, expose the hidden mark. From the streets to the alleys where the secrets lie, getting into minds of the wicked, no alibi. LTL true crime. We going deep in the dark. Yeah, peeling back the layers, expose the hidden mark. From the streets to the alleys where the secrets lie, getting into minds of the wicked, no alibi. LTL true crime, we going deep in the dark. Yeah, peeling back the layers, expose the hidden mark. From the streets to the alleys where the secrets lie, getting into minds of the wicked, no alibi.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to LTL True Crime. We're live here on this Monday, March 18th, 2024. Want to welcome everybody back into the live show. We got everybody over here on YouTube. We got the twits on Twitter watching. It's a great world. It's a great world out there. And thank you for joining the show live today. So as everything has been unfolding, obviously in the Karen Reed case, I thought it would be very important to get myself educated with Sandra Birchmore. I've done a previous stream here, kind of doing a light dive into the information surrounding her case. And again, I'm still learning a lot about this case, but I thought that I would bring in an expert that pretty much has been following this case for quite some time here. And her name is Mizzy, and she actually is a moderator or runs the Justice for Sandra Birchmore Facebook group. So if you're over there, there's about 5,000 people in the group. We've been doing many standouts here in Massachusetts, and it's really, I have to say, it's one of the most disturbing cases that I've come across. And I was actually saying to Mizzy backstage before we went live, I said, I get really just, I don't know. I don't feel good about it after I talk, just knowing what Sandra Birchmore went through. But I won't wait too much longer here. We're going to bring in Mizzy, and I have a nice presentation that I've put together tonight, a nice visual presentation that'll kind of help us along in the stream. And again, it's going to be Mizzy's platform tonight. I'm going to let her talk about Sandra Birchmore because she is the expert in this area, has done multiple deep dives into this and has a lot of information that she can share tonight. And I appreciate her coming over on LTL True Crime. So let's bring her in here. Hey, Mizzy, how are you?
Hey, Brian, how are you?
Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. And I know that you and I have gone back and forth for quite some time in some emails. And finally, we have an opportunity, knowing that the Attorney General's office has reopened the Sandra Birchmore case, and they should. I mean, this should have never been closed.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, I think we know the people or person that is involved with Sandra's death. And I think, the way that we feel. But again, it's just an extremely disturbing case. So how did you get involved with the Sandra, doing this research on Sandra and learning about her case?
Yeah, I was just hanging out, cleaning my room, and I had the news on Channel 4, and they did a report on the internal report, the Stoughton police report dropping, and I was like yelling, "Hey, how's everyone doing?" I was like, "Are you effing kidding me?" And I
Yeah.
was yelling at my TV, like, and I was like, "This, what? This cannot." And I started looking up like everything I could on it, and there wasn't that much press on it, and there's only a few days worth on like through the news.
Mhm.
And I was like, I got to look into this case. But I'm also a small creator. I interview families who have a loved one that's been murdered,
Mhm.
and I started looking into the case, but I was working on 2 other cases, so I wasn't able to like really dive deep into it. But I felt like Sandra was like speaking to me and saying, "Mizzy, work on my case, look into my case." I would go to bed thinking about her case. I would wake up thinking about her case.
Mhm.
And I was like, I have to do something with this. And happens that my friend Sarah messaged me and she said, "What is up with the Sandra Birchmore case?"
Yeah.
Because the guys from the case were going to cover her son's murder. And I was like, "Oh, um, yeah, how did you know about it?"
Yeah.
And she told me. And then me and her were just talking about her case for like 2 weeks straight. We started doing deep dives about it. We read everything we could get our hands on. I read the internal report. We were just continuing to keep talking about, I mean, we talked for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
And she finally said to me, "Hey, I can't run a Facebook group, but I can do a petition because a
Yeah.
petition is a lot easier than a group." She said, "If you run the Facebook group, I'll do the petition." And I said, "Yeah, that's fine." So that day I started the justice page, and we just had our year anniversary a couple weeks ago.
Mhm. How long have you had it going now?
But exactly a year
A
and
year. Okay.
2 or 3 weeks.
Okay. Um, so I have this presentation put together. So Mizzy, thank you for joining us. Want to go through some of the. I just want to do this first. This is an extremely disturbing case. So I mean, if there's really, really sensitive information that we're going to talk about tonight, it's fine if you need to take this one off or you need to skip through it on the replay. It's perfectly fine. But I just want to put this trigger warning out there. There's stuff in here that I don't even like to talk about. I mean, it's so brutal. What happened to this poor young girl, and I couldn't even imagine the things that she's gone through. I talked about that on my first stream that I did about this, and it just it's not an easy conversation. So I just want to put this out there. It's going to be a lot of disgusting content that we are going to talk about tonight, but I just want to give that trigger warning out there. So okay, so obviously I clipped some headlines here of some things that were going on through the process of all of this. So back in August of 2020, August 22nd, 2023, we had Justice for Sandra. Protesters want cops charged in Stoughton sex abuse scandal. We had an earlier one back in 2022. Stoughton police officers had inappropriate relationships with young woman who was later found dead, officials say. I mean, to me right there, I mean, just hearing that headline and that clipping and knowing what happened to Sandra, I mean, to me, it's just the obvious. It's
Yeah.
just the obvious.
Yeah.
And then we had the family back in December of 22. Family of former Stoughton police explorer files wrongful death suit against 3 of the ex-officers, and we're going to learn a little bit more about those officers here in this presentation here. So, and then it takes us right up to our current date, and this was back on March 1st, 2024. 3 former Stoughton police officers passed Sandra Birchmore around like she was a toy, lawyer says. A suit investigation offers graphic accounts of officials reported sexual misconduct involving a former police explorer who killed herself in 2021. And this is, kind of where we're at now with the Attorney General opening this case. And we were talking about it, and you said, I think the Karen Reed case opened this back up again. If you want to talk a little bit about that.
I actually think the Karen Reed case, Sanders, they were there investigating Sanders' case and the FBI. And then they rolled up John's because there's been rumors that they were already there.
Hmm.
And if Morrissey was being, his phones were being tapped before they got to John's case, that would make sense. Because
Wait,
why?
what?
I don't know if you put it on there because I sent you a picture of Morrissey and Divine. There's a
I
photo
didn't
of
get
them.
it in the presentation, but I think we all seen that before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, they, he was the deputy chief of Stoughton for a while.
Yeah.
It's like this man got close enough to be second in line.
Yeah, I heard he was kind of the ringleader of all of this activity too.
Definitely.
In this whole sexual scandal, he was kind of the one that was running everything. And of course, we can talk a little bit about that more when we get into all the individual characters in this uh, disgusting case. I mean,
Yeah.
so let me ask you, who was Sandra Birchmore? What did you learn about her? What did you know about her?
Yeah. Sandra was born in Boston, but she grew up almost her whole entire life in Stoughton. She was the child of a single mom. She lived in a house with her mom, her grandmother, and her two aunts. Um, a lot of times when you read stuff about her, they say you know, she she was totally from a broken home, which she was. Her mom was a sickly person, so there was issues. And but she did grow up with people who loved her. She
Hmm,
absolutely adored her grandmother.
hmm.
And unfortunately her mom died in 2016, and then her grandmother died. They died really close together
Wow.
in 2016, and then 2019 one of her aunts died. So she lost her core support, when she was a teenager.
Yeah.
And she could be goofy. She was smart, but also she had this dueling personality type deal thing where she was very mature in a lot of ways, but she was very immature in a lot of ways. And I had a family member tell me that she, when they had family functions, she would like to hang out with the adults,
Yeah.
not the kids. And they would say, Sandra, go hang out with your cousin.
Right. Right.
And so that kind of to me could be a reason why she was interested in globbing onto these men, you know, and she was a little socially awkward. She did have some issues in school.
Hmm.
She could be very paranoid about the other students. But she was a good kid, and she had faults. She did have mental issues, and
Sure.
she was being treated for them. But some of those mental issues, I'd like to say that probably came from these men. No, I'm not going to
Mm.
say all of them, but when children are groomed, they end up with depression and anxiety, and they do sometimes have suicidal thoughts. And there's a whole slew of things that people who are groomed that come away with mental issues. So she had a lot of dueling things in her life. And she was very notorious for being telling oversharing. That's one of the things that I've had family members and friends tell me. And also, if you read the Massachusetts State Report,
Mm.
she overshared way too much at work
Mm.
and made people uncomfortable. But like also when she got pregnant, she overshared. She told anybody and anyone who would listen because she desperately loved that she was pregnant and she wanted to have this child.
Right. Um, I forget what I was just going to ask you, but did you actually get to talk to any of her family members, any like close family members to her through this process?
I talked to her cousin. Her cousin is actually an admin on the page.
Oh, okay.
She posts sometimes, but she kind of stays in the background. I've talked to a few other family members. Um, I've talked to some cousins and a few people.
Hmm. Okay.
And her cousin was one of the last people to speak to her that night through text.
Yeah, we can talk about that when we get
Yeah.
and talk about her death. So let's talk about the Explorers program and what you have found out about that and how she actually got involved in that Explorers program. I think I read and I think it says it right here in this article that I grabbed this screen grab from. might not be in this particular clipping, but she had this tremendous respect for law enforcement. Do you know where that came from? Was that just something that that when she grew up, she wanted to be an officer or involved in the law? Or
Yeah, she wanted to be a police officer. She respected police officers so much and she looked up to them. I also kind of think that, she didn't have a father in her life. So they became father figures, and also just the protection. A lot of people think that their fathers are their protectors. So I think she might have thought that they were, law enforcement officers, especially the Stoughton Police Department were her protectors, and she desperately wanted to be a part of them.
It's really haunting. Someone that is supposed to be out there and be a protector of these children. I mean, police officers preach this. Good police officers preach this every day. That is their work. It's to protect people and to protect children. And the ones that are supposed to be protecting her took advantage of this young girl and destroyed her life. It's really sad. I have a very tough time, going through this. I really do. It's just heartbreaking. I just want to read this really quick. Todd with the $9.99. Thank you so much for her happy birthday wishes. I know a lot of people are still getting. It was my birthday yesterday, Mizzy. So
yeah, I meant to say that when we were talking earlier. I actually meant to say it in one of my emails that I sent you, like my 500 emails I sent you with all the stuff I sent you.
It was funny because Turtle Boy was doing his live last night. He was just talking, and everybody found out I'm 46, and they're like, "There's no way he's 46." And he's like, "That dude's 46." He's like, "I thought he was 32." He goes, "Good for him."
I get that all the time. I'm about to be 50.
No way. I thought you were like in your 30s. Good for you.
Thank you. We got good genes.
Yes, we have the good genes. All right, so let's talk about how Sandra got involved in the Explorers program. I'm going to read a little bit of this here. The Peace Officers and Standards Training, which is POST, is seeking to sanction 3 officers in the Office of the Attorney General's Andrea Joy Campbell, was taken over by the investigation related to the case that was previously being handled by the Norfolk District Attorney's Office. Who's that? Agency said. A. Campbell, spokesperson, declined to comment further. The internal police investigation documented Birchmore's interaction with Matthew Farwell, 38, a detective, former patrolman, union president, and married father, William Farwell, Matthew's twin brother, and a fellow officer, Robert C. Devine, 51, a former deputy chief in Stoughton who previously led the department's youth program, the Stoughton Police Explorers program. They voluntarily left Stoughton Police in 2022. Gee, I wonder why. And are being sued for wrongful death by Birchmore's estate, which is also suing the town of Stoughton for negligence. The former officers in town denied allegations. Court records show. So can you tell me a little bit how, Sandra got into this program, and I'll start there with that. Can you tell us how
she because she wanted to be a police officer, she thought this would be a great place to be. Her mom thought she was sending her someplace where, she could stay out of trouble and be around people who would take care of her, not go the route that they did. So she, like I said, she desperately wanted to be a police officer. She talked about it a lot, and I actually talked to a Stoughton cop who said she was there all the time at the police station.
Wow. So we go into now, and it's going to start getting a little bit deep here. We're going to talk about the grooming process. So the report from 2022 Stoughton Police Internal Investigation was heavily redacted, but its conclusion was clear. The 3 officers with ties to a former participant in the Stoughton Police Youth Program who killed herself had inappropriate relationships with her. Why are these people not in jail? Just based off that.
Well, I actually talked to Trooper Fanning about this case for about 45 minutes. And he said that it's hard because she's not alive, so she can't testify against them. But they were looking at ways to try to charge them. And he said they need witnesses. So I said, well, you know what? I'll put out a call on the justice page. They need witnesses. But who wants to come forward to the hot mess that is going on in the Norfolk DA's office?
Right.
You know, who wants to come forward to that? And also, people are scared. They're afraid to come forward because you're going against the police.
Yeah.
So, and it's like the police are policing themselves. So it's scary. I get it. I get why people don't want to come forward, but nothing's going to change if people don't speak up.
Right. And that's one thing that Karen Reed is not afraid of, to go against the police. And she is fighting back hard. And I'm telling you, she's going to be a free woman. It just doesn't factually add up. Karen Reed is factually innocent. So for the trolls out there, I'll just throw that on the record.
I agree.
Yeah.
And also with that, even if, you know, even whether you, I agree. I think she's innocent. But even if you thought she possibly could or couldn't be innocent, it doesn't matter. The case that the mess that they've made of this case, in their investigation, she can't get convicted.
Yeah. And I just even look at just even listening to the last hearing. I mean, just with all the new information that Jackson came forward in that first 10 minutes that he had was just mind-boggling. I mean, if you watch the reaction stream, me, the Glare, and Turtle Boy, our mouths dropped. We're like, what? I mean, looking at where more time gaps got filled in for us, and knowing what was going on within those time gaps, like the text messages between Higgins and Albert at 2:22, and then 5 minutes later, ironically, Jen McCabe Googles how long to die in cold. I mean, come on, you know. But
and I also think because of Karen's case, I've been able to kind of sneak in a little bit and be able to promote Sandra, because it is the same DA's office who dropped the ball on purpose. It's the same Canton Police Department. You know, it's them covering up for cops. So there becomes a pattern. So and I've been welcomed by the Free Karen Reed movement. You know, people have been, you know, because I know there have been other people who've tried to say, hey, what about my case? What about my case?
Sure.
But Sandra's case is connected to Sandra's because of these issues. You know, what has gone on with this case was taken out of Canton and moved to the Massachusetts State Police, where
Proctor.
Proctor wasn't on this, but it's the same unit. It's the same group of. They all work together. So
and
it's
then
like
Lank is connected to this, and Lank is also connected to Karen Reed's case.
Yeah. So it's like there's a lot of connecting in there, and just it's crazy that almost a year apart. It's like a year and 3 days that two cases happen where it's cops. It's cops covering up for cops.
Yeah, it's crazy. But it doesn't surprise me anymore. I mean, knowing what's going on in this kind of little area that I live in, Massachusetts, you know, I just want people to remember this is not only just happening here in our little, well, I guess we're kind of medium-sized state, Massachusetts, but this is going on all over the nation, you know, and that's why I always preach this all along. Look into who's running your communities. It's very, very important. If you sense or see something that feels or looks corrupt, you have every right as a taxpayer to look into that and question it. Go to your committee meetings. That's what they're there for. Look at what they're doing in Canton. They're doing great things in Canton. Rita Lombardi standing up and pushing back against these assholes around these panels that think they have these superpowers and run the town, you know.
And I want to add to that.
Rita's going to win, by the way. Go ahead.
I want to add to that. I don't want people to get the notion that it's because this DA's Democrat, that it's because he's a Democrat.
Sure.
I could tell you, like, 4 of the other cases I've covered, it was a Republican. So it's power. It has nothing to do with what party this person belongs to. It's because they're powerful. And when people get power, it corrupts them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and I'll be flat out here, and people are going to probably hate me when they say that. I lean pretty center right, but if I saw a Republican that was doing this, I'd be all over it just as well. I mean, injustice is injustice. You
Yep.
know, crime is a crime. It doesn't matter. You need to call it out. You need to hold people to the carpet. And this is one of the most disgusting displays of anything that I've heard come across cases that I've covered. And like I said, I get very uneasy when we talk about this. All right, let me go back into the grooming part. So it says now more than 3 years after Sandra Birchmore, 23, was found dead in her apartment, graphic details of the office reported sexual misconduct have become public amid developments in the wrongful death lawsuit and proceedings by the state law enforcement oversight agency. Among the new allegations recently disclosed, the details for the first time are there's text messages. Why can these guys not get thrown in prison? Text messages showing one of the officers initiated sexual contact with Birchmore when she was 15 and he was 27. The other two officers had sex with her in a patrol cars, and she was when she was an adult. And that department once used its authority to seek a psychiatric evaluation for her. Can you tell us a little bit more about this psychiatric evaluation? When was that? And
I don't know, but when I spoke to that Stoughton police officer, he did allude to that she did have, he said she does have mental issues, and they have had to they've tried to get her help before. And I didn't push it because I wanted to flat out ask him, did you think if he murdered her?
Sure.
But we did talk about it, and that makes me wonder who did it, and how many more people in that office knew about Sandra, and this was a way to try to sweep it under the rug, just to be like, oh, she's crazy. This chick is crazy. You can't believe a word.
Say that, because that's where I was going to go with this. We'll get out ahead of it. We'll get her on record that she's got all these issues, and all the shit she's saying, she's just making up.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they wanted to try to do. So let me just get to this really quick. Steph, 2-month membership. Thank you so much. She said, happy birthday. I sent you and Casey some coffees for a date. I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right, let's move on here. So again, with the grooming process, she joined Stoughton's Police Explorers program at 13 and deeply respected police. The wrongful death lawsuit said there she met Divine in the Farwells, who were her instructors, and Divine's protege, the complaint said. The role of the Stoughton police in Birchmore's life was larger than previously known, according to court records. The department used its authority to seek a psychiatric evaluation for Birchmore, court papers show. The records don't reveal when the identities of the Stoughton police personnel who were involved or what prompted their investigation. Under state law, police officers and some medical professionals and social workers may apply to hospitalized people for psychiatric evaluation if they pose a risk or serious harm by reasons of mental illness. I'm going to ask you this question. Do you know when this investigation, did anybody have any clue that this stuff was going on and didn't report it? Have you heard anything like that?
Well, let me say a little bit something about the Explorers program. There was a girl who was interviewed. She's in the reports. She was groomed by Divine. He took her to a back closet or a back office and lifted her up on the desk because she had a huge crush on him. And I believe she was 12. And he said she was upset because he was about to get married. And he said, oh, don't be upset. And he touched her hair and things like that. And he said, you're a knockout. And when you turn 18, I'll take you out on a date. And she used to go visit him at the police station. And one of the other officers who also ran the program with Divine at the time yelled at her because she said she went in a low-cut t-shirt, and he yelled at her to get out of his office. So to me, that indicates a little bit that people knew something funky was going on. He was the SRO officer. He ran an after-school program in the gym at the junior high school. and he did the Explorers program. Three programs that gave him unfettered access to children. And so I think people might have thought stuff was weird. I don't know who knew. And that to me is why the investigation, it's all great. They did an internal investigation and they came out with a lot of information. But the investigation to me stopped with them. Who
So
else?
once they had a feeling it was those 3 officers that were involved in this process, this grooming process, and having the sexual relationship, all of a sudden it just stops.
Yes, it stops there. It's like they got to the edge and they're like, no, we're not going to look down.
Because it would just it would let the floodgates open.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I think there possibly could be more officers. There could be more men. I don't know. I was telling you earlier when we get to more to the William, I've long suspected that he was trafficking Sandra because he was introducing her to other men.
And we're going to probably talk about one of them right here in this clipping. So again, it says the incident was disclosed in court by Joshua Heel, and I want you to talk about him in a second. A former Stoughton animal control officer was also sued by Birchmore's estate, but has since been dismissed from the case. In the court filings, Heel said he met Birchmore in 2019 when they both were adults, and they engaged in consensual sex act. In a consensual sex act once after working hours at an animal shelter. He also said Birchmore confided in him some of the details of the sexual encounters she had with the Farwells and Devine, and the Stoughton investigators interviewed him twice, court records show. According to Heel, Birchmore said Matthew Farwell used a phone to track her whereabouts and met her for sex at his residence and at a soccer field, records show. So how does Heel come into this? That was someone that they met when she was working at animal shelter, or?
Yeah, I think it was in there too that William is the one who introduced them. So that goes into him introducing her to other men. And they had oral sex and she got a cat for it. And when he went into interview with them about this case, he thought he was just going in as a witness. He didn't understand that they were looking into him too. And that's why when you look at the report, he was there for a half hour and then the interview stopped. And he came back with another on a later date with an attorney. So he knew a lot about what was going on with the Farwells because they still talked. And Heel's almost like another section. It's like I say that there's different parts of this. There's her death. That's why they actually had it. They were 2 separate cases. One was her death case and one was the abuse portion of the case. So when her death was considered a suicide, they closed that, but the rest of the case was still open. So there's this Devine, there's William and whatever William was up to, and then obviously Matthew.
Matt. Yeah, we're gonna get into that.
So Heel, they basically, like I said, they exchanged oral sex for a cat, and he kept it off the books, so it wasn't in the books. The deputy chief, that's who did the investigation. He went and got the books and went through the books to see if there was a cat listed, and there wasn't.
Wow. So now was she young? Now they're saying they had sexual contact when she was adult, but do you think that he was abusing her when she was young as well, along with the other?
No. This was when she was adult. They said it was like 2 or 3 years before she died.
Wow.
So she was probably about 20, 21.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk.
He still abused his power.
Yeah, no, of course.
He abused the power that he had over her. He was still, he still had to dress as almost like an officer. Sometimes when you see a animal control officer, you wouldn't, if you look quick, you wouldn't know if they were a police officer or an animal control officer. So he
Right.
still, he had power. He worked for the town. He worked for the police station.
Hmm.
So he was
Yeah,
still
he
somebody in
probably threw all
power.
those credentials out there, like, "Hey, I work for the town, I'm in a uniform too, and da da da." Jeez, man. All right,
And
let's talk
he went
about
on to be an SOR officer in Abington.
of course.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about the alleged. So, the internal police investigation documented Birchmore's interaction with Matthew Farwell, 38, a detective, former patrolman union president, and married father, William Farwell, Matthew's twin brother, and a fellow officer, Robert Devine, 51, a former deputy chief in Stoughton, who previously led the department's youth program, the Stoughton Police Explorers Program. They voluntarily left Stoughton police in 2022. How ironic. And are being sued for a wrongful death by Birchmore's estate, which is also suing, the town of Stoughton for negligence. The former officers in town deny the allegations, court records show. So, who was the one? Did you find out who was the one that actually started, I guess, abusing Sandra first, and how this led up into getting into these other men being involved? Do you know that?
Yeah. So she was, when she joined the program, they preyed upon her. She started being groomed at 13. And then at 15, Matthew Farwell began an inappropriate sexual relationship with her,
Hmm.
and they continued for till the day she died at 23. Um, I cannot pinpoint the date when William and Divine started having an inappropriate sexual relationship with her,
Hmm.
but she was, from what I can see, she was an adult, because that's all you see in the notations. And when you read the filing for when the lawsuit took place, they say that it was her. And also in a text message, she said that he took her virginity, and it happened when she was 15. So I don't think anything happened with the other two, because Divine was very careful about things.
Hmm.
He would, but also you got to look at Sandra. When you look at pictures of Sandra at 23, she looked like she was 50, kind of like the conversation we were having earlier,
Hmm.
about the two of us.
Yeah.
When she was 15, she looked like she was 11. So when
Yeah.
she was 23, she still looked like she was
He's
15.
young.
So that's a pedophile's wet dream,
Oh,
because
yeah.
they have this girl who looks like she's a kid, but she's not.
And
So
it's almost like, I find with people, when you read or hear about abuse cases, that, they almost stay within that age. They don't ever become a full adult. So, like we were talking about, you talked about earlier, that immaturity. It never, she was smart in a lot of ways, but she was very immature in a lot of ways. And
mhm.
this is, it's a groomer's, again, I'm going to use your analogy, wet dream, because this is an easy target for them, someone that they can jump into and just start mentally getting in their head, and then that leads to, obviously, very inappropriate sexual relations. There was reports, and I don't know if you can confirm this. I had heard that there was relations starting when she was 13 years old, when she first got into the program. Did you hear anything about that,
I
or?
haven't heard anything about when she was 13, but I wouldn't
Hmm.
put it past them. I
Right.
would not put anything past these guys.
Okay, so we go on here, and these are some clips that you sent me today. So, we'll talk about Divine first. So, Divine, and I'll read this out if you want to talk a little bit about it. Divine denied that he communicated with Sandra Birchmore on any texting, messaging, social media platforms, burner phone, Snapchat, or otherwise. He spoke of, and it's been very heavily redacted here. Divine found out about the relationship between Matt Farwell and the victim Sandra Birchmore, quote, when he got put out on leave. The later qualified qualified his response that Sandra Birchmore had mentioned the relationship previously as a consenting adult. She spoke to Divine about her relationship with William Farwell. Divine did not believe her. So if you want to talk a little bit about that,
My question is, why would she talk about William
and
when
not
in
Matt,
her mind Matthew was her boyfriend?
right?
So she would have definitely talked about Matthew, not William.
Mm.
She told anybody about that she was dating Matthew. That was her boyfriend. She would tell people my boyfriend's a Stoughton cop or my boyfriend's a cop, you know. So I find it far-fetched that, and you notice that he probably was caught in the lie. They probably said, well, we know, you know. And he said,
Right.
he probably said, you know, I mean, she told me about when they were, you know, when he was an adult and she was an adult. I don't believe a word he says.
No, I don't believe a word any of these guys
Oh,
say,
yeah.
obviously. The investigation concerned on the matter of Sandra Birchmore. After some discussion, I offered to allow Blank to stop the interview if he felt that he needed to consider representation that he had. We began the interview at approximately 10:30 a.m. After approximately 30 minutes of questioning, Blank asked to stop the interview for a break. This is Divine, right?
This actually isn't Divine. This is about Heel.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
This is
Yeah, I thought
actually Heel.
Okay, my bad on that. I'm sorry.
No worries.
After consulting with Blank, they asked to stop the interview so he could consult further representation. I obtained the name of Blank. Let's see. In the end of the interview, advising that he should communicate with only an attorney on this matter, I told Blank that he would arrange for another interview through heavily redacted again. I communicated on December 21st, 22nd in 2021 about the outcome of the first interview and arranged for consultation of the interview on the week of 12/27.
This is
So
him
this is
realizing,
Heel.
oh, wait a minute. I'm not just a witness.
Mm,
That's why he left after 30 minutes.
yeah. And then he was like, I need an attorney.
Yep.
All right. So going on to Divine, the investigation later revealed that there was direct contact between Divine and Birchmore by Facebook message. Why are these people not in jail? I don't get it. How are they not in prison? By Facebook Messenger between November 27, 2020 and February 1st, 2022. It's almost 2 years.
Yep.
During some of their Facebook message communications, the nature of the conversation was that Divine and Birchmore, Blank, there were also at least one instance where they met when Divine was on duty. Let's see, and it was heavily redacted again, regarding the allegations of Officer Robert Divine demonstrated incompetence when he failed to demonstrate sound judgment in violation of Section 3 of the Stoughton Police Department and regulations. This alleged is sustained. On the date of December 21st, 2020, Robert Divine failed to demonstrate sound judgment when he engaged in Facebook message communications with Sandra Birchmore while on duty at the Stoughton Police Department. The content of the text messages was requested by Birchmore to meet him at the Chateau restaurant. Why are these people not in jail? They should be in prison.
They should.
And they were continuing. So I just don't get it. And again, I don't think Sandra was the only victim in this. I mean, this is a pattern. These guys knew what they were doing. They were clever about it. They got around it. I'm telling you, just like you said, there's multiple other people involved in this, but they're just too afraid to come forward.
Yeah, I have a video coming out soon that talks about an iceberg, and Sandra is the tip of the iceberg. And the iceberg, when you look below, there's a lot of mass underneath the water, and Sandra's just the tip.
That's what sank the Titanic.
Exactly.
Yep. All right, so we'll go through here. Again, now we go to William Farwell.
Before we go on to William, let me tell you one quick thing about all those text messages. I don't know if it said it in that section, but he was using on Facebook the handle Marty Riggs from
Riggs is lethal weapon.
Lethal Weapon, yes. Wow. That's so you're gonna use the handle of a crazy cop.
Right. Crazy Cop. Very popular movie, by the way. I think they did 4 or 5 of them in the series.
Yeah, so it's like, and they did a show, Lethal Weapon. The show, it was out a few years ago.
That's right. Yep, that's
so it's
right.
Like,
yeah, Martin Riggs. Yep.
Martin Riggs, yes.
That was Mel Gibson played him.
Yes.
Yeah, played by Mel Gibson. So we go into excuse me, William Farwell. Regarding the allegations that Officer William Farwell violated CJIS, LEAP's NCIC data entry policy of the Stoughton Police Department rules and regulations as well as the CJIS individual user agreement, this allegation is sustained. On the dates of October 10, 2019 and November 4th, 2019, William Farwell conducted a CJIS query of Sandra Birchmore on the Stoughton Police Department computer. The CJIS query was not associated with any type of official police business. Talk to us about that a little bit.
Well, you guys know the system that Turtle Boy and the dispatcher got in trouble for.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that system is, and he wasn't supposed to be using the system. Police officers are not allowed to use that unless it's official business, as that just said. He looked himself up, I believe it's 24 or 25 times. I can't remember the exact number. And he also was looking Sandra up. Why?
Right.
Why are you looking yourself up? Is it because you're looking to see if there's an investigation into you for trafficking?
Mm-hmm. And looking up her information as well,
Yes.
too. Yeah, and seeing if there's anything been probably filed by her or said by her, any type of legal document that's out there. Yeah, it's pretty disgusting.
And why would you need to? Why would a police officer need to look themselves up?
Right.
If they're a clean cop, they don't do anything wrong, there would be no reason for him to look himself up.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree.
He
yeah,
I mean,
that's when cops start looking themselves up. Am I caught in anything? Is anything put out there? So regarding the allegations of Officer William Farwell violated, again, data entry positive sustained analysis. William Farwell conducted queries himself. Okay, so it basically just keeps going through the history of the queries. Wow. Yeah, it's crazy. Look at all the queries. Look at all the querying. I mean, what are you doing? I mean, it's going back to 2017, all the way up to 2019. And he was pretty much in that system a lot, almost every couple of months, looking himself up. And then he went through a period of January where he was doing it almost back to back. February, March, April again, May, August, all 2018. All 2018. Wow.
Okay. So second page of it too. That's more.
Yeah, right here. It's more of it here. So he's really looking all the way up to 2021. Unreal. Okay, so we more William on the dates of April 19, 2020. Again, we're still this says William Farwell coerced Sandra Birchmore via text messages. And it's obviously heavy redacted. Again, it talks some more dates that they spoke. William Farwell coerced with Sandra Birchmore via text message. So obviously inappropriate contact, and leads a paper trail, well, a digital paper trail of these conversations.
It's what did he coerce her to do, and why do you have to redact it?
Yeah, exactly.
Because if they're not talking about the abuse, why is it redacted? Right.
So the goes into here's a piece of an article here from the Post that says Post also accuses William Farwell of encouraging Birchmore to secretly record her sexual encounters with others and send him the photos or videos. One photo sent by Birchmore to William Farwell on August 16, 2020 depicted a male's genitalia of an unnamed Stoughton officer, according to Post records, which referred to Birchmore by her initials. It's unspeakable. It's absolutely unspeakable.
And the question is now, he probably wouldn't want photos of him and her and her brother. Right. Is that officer divine? And if it's not, why isn't that officer in these reports?
I'm telling you, there's more people that are involved in this. It's not just these three guys. I mean, there's more going on here. Way more to the story.
And this report right there, the Boston Globe report, it made me start confirming. I've always, as I said earlier, I've long suspected that William was trafficking Sandra.
Yeah, and Magnolia right here in the chat just said straight up trafficking, straight up raping a underage girl, straight up. That's what it is. I tend to try to stay away from the R word on here because YouTube, tends to not like that and demonetize and all that fun stuff and shut channels down that talk about this stuff. But And that's why we said inappropriate sexual content. But I want to get that out there. It's definitely what was going on. I mean, it's
and this confirms it for me. That like I have one when I told you me and Sarah were looking up things, and I read the report, and I said, and I kept clipping it for her, and I said he was trafficking her, and she was like, "You're right," but we didn't have any proof past like a few sentences. And this, like I've looked into the case and heard things, but that clip right there was like, yep, he was 100% trafficking Sandra. And what was he getting?
And why are we heavily redacting these reports when we're protecting these people that obviously did something against the law, flat up against the law, that should be in prison, and we're going to go in and heavily redact all these police reports? Absolutely makes no sense. Why? We're protecting them because they wear a badge? Is that why?
And the Massachusetts State Police, I FOIA'd to get their report. It took forever to get the report. And we ended up getting it from somebody else. And then they finally sent me the report. And then I was like, why? They didn't put most of the interviews with Matthew in there. They didn't put William or Divine. They just put like little clips. And I said, I went back and I said, I specifically asked for the interviews with these men. And they said, we cannot give them to you because it's abuse, especially of a minor. You're admitting it that it's abuse. Why aren't these guys in jail?
Yeah. I mean, they flat out just admitted to you that it's abuse, and these guys are not in prison and put away. It's a weird way our system works here in the world, and especially in the state of Massachusetts. It's unbelievable. So we go into, again, William, during the state police investigation into Birchmore's death, there was analysis of her devices, cell phone, laptop, etc., and social media platforms. This part of the investigation revealed that Sandra Birchmore had sent text messages to William Farwell informing him that blank Robert Devine. Gee, I wonder what that said. She also sent William Farwell blank. Again, super heavily redacted information, but still shows and shares that relationship and the connection between all of these three men, which is very good for, if the AG is getting into this, the FBI picks this up. It's showing that connect. The FBI, if they're watching the stream, you need to investigate this.
Yeah.
You need to look into it. I mean, it's pretty clear as to what was going on here and how these scumbags are not behind bars for the rest of their life is beyond me right now. I mean, I get like furious when I look at this case. And the more and more I deep dive into it, it's pretty evident what was going on.
Exactly.
It's so now we have Matt, and this is the one that I think that we've all focused on the most, because Matt, and if everybody's just coming into the stream, Matt was the last person to see of these three men to see Sandra Birchmore alive. And we're going to see a video of him in a couple of minutes here of him actually entering her apartment building. And I'm going to let Mizzy kind of take us through that, because it's kind of sectioned out through the day, the different timestamps and stuff, and maybe she can fill in some of the information there. But it says Matt said that sometime in early 2020, he began a sexual relationship with Sandra. I find this interesting because that's a lie. I mean, we know this goes back to 15 years old. And I've even heard in some of the reports that was or articles as back as 13. That wouldn't surprise me, immediately when she came into the program. He said that he was intoxicated one night and ended up meeting up with her and having sex. Matt said that he maybe had sex with her two or three since last year. He said that the last time they had sex was at the end of October 2020. Matt said that sometime in December 2020, Sandra told him that she was pregnant and he was the father. Matt said he was confident the last time he had sex with her and the timeline didn't add up based on the expected due date in September. Matt was adamant that he was not the father of the unborn child that Sandra was carrying at the time of her death. So we'll go here into the investigation. Again, Matt, among the new allegations recently closed in detail for the first time are text messages showing One officer initiated sexual contact with Birchmore when she was 15 and he was 27. The two officers had sex with her in a patrol car when she was an adult, and the department once used its authority to seek a psychiatric evaluation for her. We go on. During our recent conversations, you asked Mr. Farwell to submit a DNA sample and participate in a polygraph interview. Although I appreciate your diligence, I advise my client to decline these requests and the request for further interview. Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we want to do those two things, right? And a non-traditional non-polygraph that accompanied them. I did so because they are far outside the norm for mere witness in an investigation. I was a prosecutor for 14 years and participated in hundreds of interviews with state police detectives like yourself. I cannot recall once seeking a polygraph interview, and I can only recall seeking DNA samples of persons that investigators and I considered targets. Now, I'm sorry, saying this?
I'm sorry, he's full of shit. He
Yeah.
is full of shit, because anybody into true crime knows that they ask for DNA to rule
Of course.
people out all
Anybody
the time.
they feel is connected. Can I get a buccal swab?
It's like,
So
and they ask people who are witnesses to take polygraphs all the time. Not to obviously, because they're not
clear the name,
but to find out if the person is telling the truth.
Yeah, just to clear the name. I mean, we see it all the time. I mean, if you even watch the first 48, they have people that come into the room, they interview them as a witness, and they say, "Hey, just for the record, can we ask you for a DNA sample, which is a buccal or buccal swab?" There's multiple ways that people say it. I say buccal swab, and if people are not guilty, and they'll just say, "Sure, it's going to clear me of everything. I wasn't there, etc." And also, I've heard of polygraph exams too, of people that might be involved close to a case. They say, "Would you submit to a polygraph test?" Of course I will. I'm not involved in this. Boom, it clears that person. So, I mean,
especially when they have dueling witnesses that say one thing and then another witness says something else. They need to know who's telling the truth. It happens all the time. So that lawyer is full of shit.
Yeah. Tanya G says, infuriating that these pieces of shit aren't being held accountable. I completely agree. All right, let's go on here. So now we have Farwell again. Matt, for further investigation by Mass State Police indicated that Farwell had known the victim, Miss Birchmore, since she was approximately 13. This is where it was 13 years of age, and began a relationship with her at the age of 15. I think that's bullshit. I think it's probably at 13 years old. Text messages developed from the Mass State Police investigation indicated that Farwell had blank with Sandra Birchmore when she was at age 15, and that Farwell was blank. The substance of the conversation shows that Farwell corroborates this action. Why are these guys not in prison, Mizzy? What is going on here?
And I think this is something that we need to look at, part of our justice system that needs to be overhauled, because if they've been saying that they can't bring them to trial because she's not alive to testify. Well, if the person is dead and that person has something to do with her death, because whether she unalived herself or he did it, it was directly having to do with him.
Well,
it was because of the abuse that he inflicted on her. So there's got to be some kind of mechanism that if the person is dead, there still can be some sort of trial, especially if there is, proof from text messages to him, to her, saying, "Yeah, I took your virginity."
Yeah, or how about video of the last person that's involved in this sick caper that they're all involved in, walking through her door and being up in her apartment for 20 minutes. Oh, and then ironically, a couple days later, she's found dead. I mean, come on,
I agree.
And and there are cases that people get tried and convicted even without a body or a murder weapon. It's just all that circumstantial evidence that adds up. To me, when I look at this case, I know you probably think the same thing, Mizzy. There's a lot of fucking circumstantial evidence here pointing towards these individuals. I mean, what is going on?
Exactly.
So we're going to talk about Sandra's death now. Let's see. This is a little screenshot you sent me. It said, Blank stated that Birchmore told her that she had the baby's father about a pregnancy a few days after Christmas. Apparently, the father was upset about the pregnancy and Blank. Then she kicked him out of the apartment, stated that Birchmore told her that he had, "I wish you would kill yourself. I wish you were dead." So this is just a couple of days up, and this is Matt having an
like right
argument
around
with her.
Christmas time.
Okay, and Matt is having this argument with her.
Yes.
Okay. And could you tell us, maybe, did you find anything about this particular argument or the days leading up? No.
No, I haven't found more, but there's another one. I don't know if you have that one. There's another one where they got into a physical altercation.
It
And
might be this
he
one here.
pushed her and took her phone.
So it says Blank half the day was scheduled for, they spoke about work, but stated that Birchmore responded to her last Snapchat message. Blank was then questioned about her knowledge related to the father of Birchmore's child. She stated that Birchmore told her that at one point, after expressing he was unhappy with the pregnancy, an argument took place between the two. Birchmore told him that she was going to tell his wife and his job. Blank stated that Birchmore was aware that this would get him in trouble. The father of the child got angry, then took Birchmore's phone from her, stated that this was approximately 2 weeks prior to her being found deceased. Oh my God. I mean, it's so obvious what's going on. Birchmore had also told that he should leave his wife if he loves me, and that he loves her more than his wife.
And that's the BS he was shoveling her. I mean, you gotta think of it. This young girl who meets this guy who's giving her all this attention, and he's building her self-esteem up and all this, gaslighting her, and he's been the constant guy in her life.
Mm-hmm.
It's sick to even say boyfriend, but that's what she thought he was.
It's go ahead. I'm sorry.
Something sick too. I want to add that I didn't mention to you before. This man, listen to how sick this man is. He brought Sandra into his home to babysit for his children. His wife knew Sandra.
Oh my God. So she knew her, but didn't know of the abuse that was going on.
And she didn't know about that. But he brought Sandra into his own home.
Unreal. And and the thing is in these abusive situations as well too, especially a very young girl that's groomed, part of this grooming process. I want to make sure that people understand not only with the physical abuse, a lot of this is very mental. So when they get inside these victims' heads, they'll say things like, "You're never going to find anybody as good as me. I'm always going to be here for you." And that's what the allure is. That's what keeps pulling, these people in, because they just become masters of that manipulation. You got to think these police officers also have psychological training, so they know how victims work, what's going on in a victim's head, or the process of a victim. So if they can exploit that, that's how they get in, and they get into these situations. It's crazy.
And so, I mean, they were her self-esteem.
Yeah.
They were building her up. They made her feel like she was wanted. And I don't mean in a necessary sexual way. I mean, just like wanted as a person.
Yep.
Wanted, they wanted to talk to her and be around her, and they made her feel good about herself. And that's why they say when kids get older, when they become adults, they go through depression and anxiety and suicidal thoughts and all this other mental health stuff, because it is abuse. It's not just the physical abuse, that if the grooming does turn to physical, it is the mental abuse that they incur.
Yeah, you're right. 100%.
Somebody asked me a question. Maybe hold off your questions and maybe we can go back and I can answer them.
Yeah, we'll go at the end. We'll get a little bit of time at the end. We'll get through this presentation. I want to kind of get through the full story of Sandra first, and then we'll take some questions at the end. Absolutely.
Definitely.
Okay, so we have this slide here. It says Birchmore had told that she and the father of the child were not going to pursue a relationship going forward. And this is pertaining to Matt. Stated that Birchmore seemed fine with that, and that the two had already discussed this arrangement. Blank stated that Birchmore was already lining up specific related to the parental visitation, such as which holidays each parent would spend with the child. Blank remarked that it seemed very early in the pregnancy to be making such preparations. When questioned, Blank stated that the last time she was aware that Birchmore and the father of the child saw another person in person was sometimes the previous week. She stated that she and Birchmore were speaking on the phone, and Birchmore told her that the father of the child had just brought her coffee and munchkins. All right, we'll go on here.
And also to go along with that, sorry,
Sure.
I just thought I forgot my thought. They had broken up before, so it wasn't like, you know, it was an on and off sometimes relation, because it was in her mind. I'm talking from her perspective, relationship. You know, he wasn't at her house. She's the other woman, you know, so he's spending most of his time with his family. So they would get in fights and break up, but he'd always come back because, you know,
again, and then he's doing that whole thing like, you're never going to find anybody. I'm the guy that's going to be there for you. No one's going to be as good as me. That, again, the grooming process, that mental grooming process. Real quick, I just want to let just shout out everybody on YouTube. We got about 300 people here on YouTube watching tonight. I appreciate that. Please make sure to smash the like button over here. We have about 500 twits on Twitter or X. I call them twits over there, watching us on Twitter tonight. I appreciate that. If you haven't come over here, please come over. We have a live chat here on YouTube. You can subscribe to the channel. If not, keep watching from Twitter. And you also have the option on Twitter to comment, and I can bring those up as well. So I just want to put those out there. All right, we'll move on here with the presentation. So Sandra's death, Stoughton internal report. This is a clip that you sent me on February 6, 2021. Matthew Farwell was interviewed by the Massachusetts State Police as part of the Sandra Birchmore death investigation. During the interview, Matthew Farwell stated that he knew Sandra for about 10 years, and they met when he was in the Explorers program of the Stoughton Police Department. He knew that he had previously, heavily redacted, Matthew Farwell stated to the state police that he began a blank relationship with sexual relationship with Sandra Birchmore in 2020. He admitted, very heavily redacted, blank in December 2020. Sandra told him, probably saying pregnant. They stated that he last saw her on the evening of February 1st, 2021, when he went to her apartment to end their relationship. They had a pretty nasty argument, and he left there at approximately 9:30 p.m. What do you think, Mizzy?
Which is a flat out lie, because he didn't leave at 9:30, because the timestamp on the video is actually wrong. The timestamp is 14 minutes fast. So he actually arrived, I think it's 13 minutes fast, and he actually arrived at 9:14. So he was there for almost 30 minutes. He was there for 29 or 28 minutes. So that right alone is a flat out lie.
Yeah. Let's play the video if people haven't seen it. I have the video. I mean, when I looked at it, I was like, bro, be looking at that camera when he comes out of that elevator. So maybe you can kind of fill us in a little bit of what's happening through the video. Let me just pull that up. Let's see. Okay, I think I got it. Cool. All right. So if you haven't seen it, here we go. We're going to play a little bit of that clip of this video that has been released. Do you know if there's any longer version of this video out there, or is this pretty much all that's been?
How long is this one?
This one's about 1:10.
I did have access to a little bit longer, but I didn't download it all. But it's I mean, it's just clips of her going in and out of the apartment all day.
Mm-hmm. So this here. Now, is she waiting for someone here?
No, I think she got an order. They said that she got pizza, but it looks like she got a sub. I think that's a sub in her hand. So I think that was an order. She was getting it from like probably a delivery man or woman. Yeah,
that's a sub. I did read that too, that she ordered two. It said 2 pizzas or something, or a pizza. I think that's wrong.
And this was just her throughout the whole day. Now, mind you, it was a huge snowstorm in Canton, in Massachusetts. Canton got a little bit more snow than the surrounding area. They got a little over a foot of snow. And so when I don't know if it's when she goes out or comes back,
She
you
has a
can
snow
see
brush.
snow on the ground.
And she
And
has a snow brush too.
yeah,
Okay, so she's gone out here. It looks like it's dark out now.
yeah. So, and this was probably around 5 something.
Okay. She's going to come back in. She has her snow brush. And now we're going to see Matt next.
And people have wondered why she has that. It's because she wanted to brush her car off in the morning.
So now this is Matt.
And I can't figure out if he was buzzed in or he has because her thing is you have to have a key
Yeah, I
fob.
was just going to say, what's he doing there?
Because he looks like he was there exactly the amount of time she was there. So I don't know if he had, because he helped her move into that apartment. And word on the street is that he helped her get the apartment, but I cannot confirm that.
Have you ever been to this building before?
No, I have not.
Oh,
but I did a virtual tour online.
I'm going to take a ride over there. I want to see if there's buzzers there. I wonder if he buzzed and she buzzed him in.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's it. And maybe someone in the chat knows. Lady Law says it's probably a key in the tap ones, maybe like a tap to get in or something.
That's what I've been told. I know Sandra had a key fob, but I don't know if she had 2 and he had 1.
And Barbara brings up a great point because we knew this. She said, by the way, Matthew was a super anti-masker from what I understand, not just an anti-masker, like super anti-masker.
And that right there is Sandra's cousin, Barbara.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yes. And notice look at him. Who walks in a building like that?
Yeah, right. Someone that's trying to conceal their identity,
exactly.
Mizzy.
Hood up, head down,
right.
Hiding your face.
Right. Doing the walk like this,
Nobody walks. The only way somebody would walk in like that is if they had their phone in front of their face. Their phone, looking down, texting, or looking at a message. If you look in the back, you can see how much snow is out there too.
You can right here. It's massive. I always thought it was interesting too, where he comes in, and kicks his feet off in the carpet. Maybe that's just a natural thing that we do, but I always thought that was kind of weird too.
Yeah, I did too.
He made a big point of that, where he kind of looks down and stops and stomps his feet out.
Nobody walks in.
Go ahead.
Like that. Nobody walks in like that. He's trying to hide his identity.
Right, 100%. And the thing that I want to show here, which was the most startling thing to me, I'm going to see it here in a second, is that peek at that security camera when he comes out. He looks right over his left shoulder. And you'll see that here. Bam, right there, just right when he comes out.
And he knows where it is. He's been to that apartment so many times. Like I said, he helped her move into that apartment.
And he starts booking out of here. Watch how I want everybody to see how quick he moves out of here. Looks at the camera, and he is running for that door. Look how quick he's running out of there.
And look, you can see how much snow is out there.
Yeah, massive. I want to go back and just show everybody once again when he comes out. Peeks over the left shoulder right there. He looked at the security camera, and he's going to make his quick-footed escape out the building. Wow. Unreal. All right, let me bring this presentation back up. We were here. And Mizzy, by the way, I appreciate you coming on and doing this. Been a huge help in this. Again, I'm just kind of getting my feet wet in this case. And, I knew you were the person that I had to bring on to really talk about this because you've really deep dived. And I'm sure a lot of people are very appreciative, for what you've done and you've peeled back in the layers in this case. So thank you.
Thank you for having me on to be able to talk to your audience and get her case out there more. Especially, it's an important moment right now to get people really getting out there and promoting her case, because now that the Attorney General has it, we need to put pressure on her. And I've been doing it for a while. Love you, Barb. I've been putting pressure on her for a while because I found out that she, during her campaign, she tweeted about Sandra.
Mm.
So I kept tweeting at her, when are you going to do something about it? You have the power. You should put it. I tweeted at her a bunch of times. And I finally, I ended up making a Sandra Birchmore Twitter page and to promote the case. So it wasn't under my other Twitter page.
Right.
I wanted it to specifically be about Sandra, and I tweeted at her under that. So I'm hoping that had some, if it wasn't the FBI, I'm hoping that helped her make the decision to take it out of Norfolk DA's office.
Of course. Beach Life says at the second door, it looked like he was like he wanted to start jogging or running out. Yeah, I agree. And Scott says Farwell looks suspicious as F.
Yep.
I completely agree.
I agree with both of those statements.
Super agree. Okay, so now we go into Sandra's death. Again, Birchmore was pregnant when police found her body in the Canton apartment. On February 4th, 2021, the state medical examiner ruled Birchmore killed herself after death certificate. Her death certificate does not indicate who fathered the unborn child. Surveillance cameras captured Matt Farwell arriving and then leaving Birchmore's apartment building 3 days before her body was found, and he was the last known person to see her alive, the Internal Affairs report said. I mean, with that sentence alone, it's like, come on, like, come on. Why are these people not in prison? Why are they being protected? Why is there not a deeper, just why? I have all these whys.
And about her death, I have two things I want to say.
Sure.
I had a source come forward to me early on saying that she had not seen the autopsy report, but somebody close to her had. And she trusted this person, and I know who that person is. And this is somebody that this person would absolutely trust. It's somebody within her life who's very close. And they said that they think she was murdered and that the family needed to look at the autopsy.
So I'm seeing some questions in here, or some people have brought up. So was she cremated or buried?
Cremated. Oh wait, actually, Barb, I think was she buried? Cremated, wasn't she?
She's cremated.
I'm having a brain fart.
So you can't go back and exhume the body for more further testing.
No, you can't. But if they should have taken fingernail clippings, and they would have taken autopsy photos. So they can do a autopsy exam. Another examiner or can look at the autopsy, and a lot of cases have been solved from an examination of the autopsy rather than
Pierre, thank you so much for becoming a YouTube member. I appreciate the support. If anybody wants to support the channel, I have my link at the top of the chat. If you want to donate, you can use that link up there. All right, let's get into Sandra's death. So this is from one of the reports. I'm going to jump down to line 4.
Barb answered that question.
Got it.
Cremated.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So let's see. Enter the dwelling, observed 2 cats in the apartment, and noticed the conditions were cluttered and unkept, and noticed the bedroom door was closed. Officer Coutard opened the door and observed a young female in a seated position on the floor with a scarf around her neck and tightly affixed to her closet door handle. Due to the discoloration, skin, blue, and lividity, had appeared that the female had been there for a long period of time. And here's Lank. Interesting, huh? Sergeant Mike Lank, shift supervisor, raided to secure the scene immediately. While en route to the residence, Sergeant Lank directed us to secure the scene in Norfolk County District Attorney's Office, CPAC, and was notified and advised that they would be responding to the residents. Gee, it's funny that none of that procedure was followed in the death of John O'Keefe, but we see that here in the Sandra Birchmore case. It's strange. And then we also have Lank that's also connected to both cases as well. What can you tell us, and I know this is probably super sensitive, if anything about Sandra's death, anything that you had found out, or anything that just didn't really add up?
Well, she was found in a seated position on
Mhm.
her bedroom floor. The ligature was tied tightly around her neck and tightly to the door handle. It's not a doorknob, it's a handle.
Mm.
And the type of hanging is called a pressure hanging. It's where you're using pressure, not you're
Mm.
not obviously not hanging from like the pole in the closet
Right.
or a door jamb. It's not a way that a lot of people out in the public hang themselves. This
Mm.
is how Aaron Hernandez killed himself,
Mm.
and this is how they call it basically a prison hanging because they don't have the means of doing it, so they do it this way. It's similar to how William, oh my God, why is his name? Famous actor that killed himself. Robin Williams. Sorry, I knew
Robin Williams.
Robin Williams had a similar way he took his life,
Mm.
but he was slightly elevated. I can't remember if he was in a chair or if he was on the floor, but he was slightly elevated. Sandra was not. She was sitting flat on the floor. So that makes it weird in first. She was a 23-year-old girl. She had plenty of other ways to end her life if she wanted to. It's just a weird way to do it. Her phone was 12 inches, I think it was on the right side, away from her hand and about 6 inches away from her leg. To me, I kind of thought that it was the big FU to her because if she wasn't fully gone when he left,
Mhm.
she wouldn't have been able to reach her phone. Yes,
Reach
she
her
can use
phone.
her leg, but she would have been, when you're panicking, you don't
Mm.
think. So she would have been panicking to get her phone and she wouldn't have been able to reach
Trying
it
to
with
lean
her hand.
forward.
Yeah. And that would have put more pressure. So,
Just a very sadistic.
yes,
Yeah, gee, and it would put it would make me think too. What if this started as a strangulation and then she passed out or something, and that's how he tied her up to the doorknob and left her there, and then left her phone out, like you said. Maybe she passed out, tried to wake up and reach forward because she has this ligature around her neck, and that's ultimately what it ended up, ending her life, sadly enough. But
that's what I think happened. Either that or have you ever watched The Wire?
I know about the show. I've seen probably some episodes in before.
Um,
Go ahead. Yeah.
I actually put out a video of how it possibly could have been done. There's a
Mm,
character named Mike D'Angelo. He gets killed in the prison and
hmm.
they make it look like it's a suicide.
Mm.
And a
Like
guy came
Jeffrey
out and
Epstein.
fell behind him. And if you look at if you went back to that video, you could see how he was.
He's massive.
Yes, and she was petite. She was very short. And when you watch the video, if she comes up to where there's a hand sanitizer right by the thing,
Hmm.
she only comes up to where the hand sanitizer
Yeah.
is. She
He's
was very, very short, and
massive.
he was so massive, and he was making himself look shorter on that video. Um,
Hmm.
so I mean, he would have been he could easily, very easily overpower her.
Overpower her.
And one of the things is like they say in the report that there was no they checked the scene and there was no nothing was disturbed and there was no drag marks or anything like that. I mean, he could pick her up with one hand how
Yeah.
big he was compared to her. So to
Mhm.
me that's just some more BS.
I had heard some speculation too that people were talking about that in the video. If you look a little bit closer, there was something about possibly him wearing some clear gloves or some gloves. Did you ever have any determination on that? I know people have tried to like zoom in on the video or anything. Have you heard anything like that? Or
No, when I saw that, I kind of tried to zoom in and I was like, I don't think so
yeah.
because he was a police officer. He had access, they have access to gloves. He just came from the hospital. His wife was in the hospital getting ready to have a baby the next day.
Mm,
So he could have just grabbed gloves from there. And
mm,
I suspect, I'm not saying she had anything to do with it, but I suspect she said, you need to go take care of your because she knew about Sandra at this point.
mhm,
She knew that Sandra was pregnant with his baby because there's a friend of hers that told them that his brother William told his wife about Sandra.
mm.
So she already knew about Sandra. I think she said, go handle your business and you need to get rid of her. Not meaning get rid of her, but you need to handle the situation
Right.
you need to tell her she needs to get rid of the kid. I'm not trying to allude to that she had something to do with the death, but I think she said, go handle this. Because she was going in for a C-section to have the next day because she had a baby the next day.
Wow, this is so intense. All right, so we have the fallout. The report from the 2022 Stoughton Police internal investigation was heavily redacted. Obviously, we saw that, but it was conclusive and clear. 3 officers with ties to the former participant, who is Sandra Birchmore, in the Stoughton Police youth programs, who killed herself, had inappropriate relationships with her. And then again, we go back to the family suing Stoughton Police in the wrongful deaths. We'll move forward here. Again, I asked this question: why no prison time? Why no prison time in this case? Why? I mean, it's so much circumstantial evidence.
Yes.
We have someone on video that's the last person that's involved in this entire mess for the last 10 years. That was the last person to see her in the apartment alive.
He deleted all contact with her. He deleted all the text messages, all the emails, and of course, Trooper Garino makes another appearance, and he couldn't find anything on his phone.
Unbelievable. So we have what's next. It brings us back up to that March 1st, 2024 headline. 3 former Stoughton police officers passed Sandra Birchmore around like she was a toy, lawyer says. And then we obviously find out about the Attorney General's investigation. I'm going to ask you this, Mizzy. I know we talked a little bit backstage about this, but have you heard any update on the internal investigation?
No.
The AG investigation.
We are trying to put pressure in Stoughton. That's why we have a standout this Saturday in Stoughton.
Yes. Please promote
if the weather holds out, we don't know if it's going to rain or not. So we're trying to put pressure on them. I want to at some point meet with the deputy chief and ask him, pick his brain about some of the questions I need answers to. But the lawsuit is snaking its way through the courts. And they jointly asked to get her autopsy report, which her aunt could have got any time. So I don't understand why she hasn't gotten it. But anyway.
Well, because the pressure wasn't there. Now it is.
That would have been the first thing I got. The second it came out, I would have wanted to see the photos and everything, but so it is snaking its way through. I cannot wait till these guys have to sit down for depositions because they're going to have to sit and answer questions. And her lawyers are going to have everything. They're going to have the redacted reports. They're going to have the supplemental information. They're going to have the redacted Massachusetts state reports. They're going to have all her files for all the text messages. There was a file of 50,000 pages of text messages.
How many?
50,000 of text messages and emails and messages through Facebook. 50,000 pages.
I mean, if that doesn't tell you right there, Mizzy, come on.
I know.
I mean,
so
I'm telling you, Sandra was not the only person that they were involved.
I agree. And that's reason why I'm pushing this, because I can't do anything for Sandra but keep pushing her case. But if we could stop the next child from being hurt by another police, if there are other police officers who are still there, and it could be Canton police officers, because the Canton police go to the Stoughton police courthouse, so they interact a lot. You don't think that Robert Devine knew all the chief and all the other officers in Canton, being the deputy chief? So there could even be Canton police officers. I'm not saying there are, but those towns are very close together. I didn't realize how you blink and you're in. I was coming from Canton, and you blink, you're in Stoughton.
Yeah, I just did a drive through Foxborough, Sharon, and Canton today, and Stoughton. Foxborough, Stoughton, Canton, Sharon. I went, and it was like that.
Yeah.
And it was funny. We were at a light. My girlfriend looks at me and she goes, that's what would she say? That's Canton right there. That's Stoughton right there. And we're in Sharon or Foxborough. I forget where it was at the point, but I
Yeah.
was like, wow, it's pretty funny. They all just kind of converge into each other.
Yep.
So, okay. So let's see here. I got some statistics. I just want to bring some awareness to everybody. Thank you for sending this over. This is from the Washington Post. Again, listen, I want to make sure that everybody understands, and I want to be very clear on this. I am personally here on LTL almost said podcast, LTL True Crime. I am very, very pro police, super pro police. If I'm in any type of trouble, I'm going to call the people in blue. I do not stand with corruption like this, Sandra Birchmore. I do not stand with corruption, what is going on in the Karen Reed case. And this is what I was saying earlier. This is not only happening here in my great state of Massachusetts. This is happening all around the nation. Now, I'm not saying every cop that picks up a badge and puts a gun on their side is corrupt and bad. There's many, many good of them out there. There's a fair share of very corrupt cops too. And this shit needs to be called out and it needs to be stopped. And things that they can start doing, better background checks, better psych evaluations, look at potential patterns in this. Maybe they go through a more rigorous training process, to get into be in the FBI and even CIA. The process to get into any of those programs is insane. Maybe they need to start doing that more and looking into the officers that want to start policing our communities.
I fully agree. That is something that needs to happen. They need to do more of a psychological exams because there's a lot of police officers, not everyone. I'm just saying there's a lot in law enforcement. There are a lot, even the good ones, who sometimes can be a little aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the game. It's hard. Policing is not easy. I have often said if I could go into walking off the streets and be a detective, I would love to be a detective because that's my jam.
Yeah.
But being a beat cop when you're dealing with, assholes every day, you're dealing with a lot
drugs,
of
violence,
yeah,
you're seeing domestic violence every day. It's not fun.
But
people getting murdered.
That take the Farwell brothers. They should never have been hired as police officers. They were pretending to be cops when they were younger and pulling people over.
Right.
That is something that they probably could have found out if they did what the FBI does when they interview the inner circle and then they interview people who know them.
Yep, exactly. And the CIA is even worse than that. It's like background check of background check of background check. I mean, maybe we need to start doing more of that. Strange programs. Okay, so from the Washington Post, thank you for sending this over, Mizzy. Again, some statistics. This is great. 18,000 plus, 1,800 plus officers charged with crimes involving child sexual abuse from 2005 through 2022. 13 to 15-year-old girls are the children most often targeted by officers, and 90% of the victims were not reported to be related to accused officers. Unreal.
And who does that? That's Sandra. 13 to 15. And also to go along with that, those are the officers that have been turned in. That's only that's only the officers. Did it say charged? I think it said charged.
I'll go back. Let's go. It says officers charged with crimes involving sexual abuse from 2005 to 2020. I mean, believe me, there's multiple. I mean, you just even said it too. There are other people involved just in this case, but they don't want to come forward. They don't want to say anything. So you have to think of all that statistics, the lost statistics, or the lost people that could step forward and say, hey, this happened to me too. You lost a lot of that. I mean, you got to think 1,800 out of how many officers probably in the United States? That's not very much.
No.
It's a very, very, very low.
And think of it like there are programs all across the country, like the explorers. There's junior officer programs. I was just watching the news tonight. There was there's a program. I don't know if it was New Hampshire or if it was Massachusetts, where it was a program where kids can go do activities, and it's through a police association.
Mm-hmm.
And my natural instincts was like, did they check out those cops better? You know, that was my natural instinct because from dealing with this case for so long. I everybody should Google Explorers Program abuse. See what comes up, because there's been a lot of children who have gone through that program.
You know, it's like people that become, you know, rabbis and stuff like that. They use the church to feed their pleasure, their you know, what they want, this disgusting nature to be with young boys or girls. You know, they use that and hide behind the clergy. And the thing that we found out, I mean, I forget the movie about it, but it happened here in Massachusetts, the protection that these clergymen got. And it went on for years, the abuse and over the, you know, the years, and they choose to ignore it, just bury it. And they move these clergymen around to different states, or brought them back to the Vatican and hid them because they didn't want them to be in trouble. It's crazy, or the scandal to get out.
There's a documentary on Netflix too about the Boy Scouts. It's a hard documentary to watch, but the stuff that they knew there were people. Yes, that's the movie. I don't know the name of the documentary, but if you look it up. It's crazy how much information that the Boy Scouts knew about some of these people.
I'm sure.
They had one guy, I think it was in Ohio, that moved. He stayed in the same state, but just moved to a few towns, like a couple hours away, and he became a troop leader in another town. And they knew he was accused, and they're like, I'm like, how is this happening?
There's another documentary on Netflix, and it's not to deal with like police or anything, but if you want to watch like the ultimate grooming, it's called Abducted in Plain Sight. That's a very interesting documentary as well, and very pretty relative to what's going on here. But someone came in to their family, they gained trust in that family, and literally stole away their very, very young daughter, not just once, multiple times. And the police kept letting this person come back into this family's life, and he kept just literally abducting her, and used these very mind-bending tactics that an alien was speaking to her. It's crazy. You have to see the documentary. But
there's also they turned that into a show that's on the Peacock. That story's crazy because he ended up hooking up with the mother and
the father.
Like, it's a crazy story.
Yep. And the young daughter. And then ultimately, because of this abuse, and it's probably just very similar to what happened to Sandra, you know, you're feeling accepted. These men in your life, you don't know what's right and wrong in these relationships. And ultimately, just in like Abducted in Plain Sight, this girl started to fall in love with this abuser and did not want to leave him until she found out that this is indeed a very inappropriate relationship.
That's something that Matt Fanning said to me when I talked to him. He said that, you know, that Sandra wasn't even telling her therapist about them. You know, she protected them, you know, because they meant something to her. But she didn't realize that they were going to be her undoing. She didn't realize that they were hurting her, that they were destroying her life. She thought that they all cared about her. They didn't care about her. They cared about what she could give them.
Well, they want, what the object that she was to them. That's all. And then again, abusers, mental abusers, and people that rape and sexual abuse that do this, you know, it's always that constant grooming process. And I talked about this before. You're never going to find anybody that's good, you know, better than me. I'm going to be the only one that's going to be there for you. You can always come to me. I love you. You know, all that stuff. So that's
and they could give them gifts.
Yep.
And
it's sick, and it's very sad. Can you take a couple of questions, Mizzy?
Absolutely.
Great. All right. So if the chat has some questions, just type a Q and then put your question in. We'll take a handful of them. And again, Mizzy, I want to just say thank you so much for doing this on my channel tonight on Let's Talk Live. I really appreciate you being here. And again, if you're not connected and you're very, very interested in this case and you want to get informed about the standouts or any new information in Sandra Birchmore's case, I encourage you to go over to the Facebook group, Justice for Sandra Birchmore. Mizzy is the runs that group over there, and you're about 5,000 strong. I'm a member in that group. I check it pretty frequently now to see if there's any updates or new information in there. So thank you for all your hard work, creating that group, getting involved, digging in to these cases and getting them out there, because this case deserves a lot of attention. It needs the attention, because this is not only just a small case here. This can shed light on many other cases that are going on in the nation right now that are very similar to this, or things that could be going on like this right now in our nation. And I really admire that about you, to go out and do this and push this out there and get that information out there. So thank you.
Thank you. And I appreciate you having me on, because I'm trying everything I can to get her case out there. And, it's mind-boggling that this story was not a bigger story. Like, 3 officers groomed a girl at 13, and it's not a bigger story.
I completely agree. So Robin G has a question, says, what is the reason behind not getting the autopsy when other cases have them?
Well, to get an autopsy in the state of Massachusetts, you have to be a family member, and you have to be like the next of kin. So I applied for the, I did a FOIA request on the autopsy. They denied me. They said, yeah, we can't, because it's considered HIPAA. They consider it HIPAA in the state of Massachusetts. So the only 2 people who would be able to get the autopsy were her aunt, Darlene, and her lawyers. So
yeah. Massachusetts
me, I want that autopsy.
Yeah, right. I think we all want to see that. Brenda's asking, wasn't that Sandra's first apartment?
Yes, she lived in her home that she grew up in till she only was in that apartment from October till the day she died.
Let's see. Who was this? Do you know who the state police investigator was? I'm sure everybody's going, was it Proctor? It wasn't Proctor.
No, it wasn't Proctor. It was Fanning, Dunn,
but same unit.
Tufts, and Clark. But Fanning is the lead on it. Him and Dunn.
Same unit as Proctor, though, you said, right? Yeah.
It's all the same unit that's under the Massachusetts State Police.
Oh, yeah.
It's that unit that does they take over any investigating that of a death or something big like this.
So Patrick's asking, where was her father during all of this? Sandra's father.
She never knew her father. He wasn't part of her life. Her mom was a single mom her whole life.
Let's see. Beach is asking, what can we continue to do at this grassroots level?
Share Sandra's story.
Share the lives like these.
Yes.
Share these lives. Any of the lives that Mizzy's been doing, get them out there. Share them to your socials, maybe through your Twitter account, anything. Just share these lives.
And this isn't me trying to be like, follow me, but follow. Sure. There's a Sandra Birchmore Twitter page. Just at Sandra Birchmore. Okay. I'm on TikTok under Mizzy, I think Mizzy B, maybe. I post stuff on the page under you'll be able to see it. And if you follow me on those, when I post videos, you can duet them, you can like them, you can share them, So those are ways to help get her out there. Call the AG and say, hey, you need to convict these men. She needs to have pressure put on her. Those people need to know that we are watching this. We are having standouts. We're having a standout either on Saturday. Hopefully the weather holds out for us. And if not, there's a rain date on April 6th, it might be. I can't remember the exact date. It's a Saturday. It's 2 weeks from Saturday. I was going to do it the following week, but it's Easter that weekend. So, share. I'm posting stuff all the time, and invite friends to come join the Justice page. because I share a lot of information. I do stuff like every once in a while I'll do tag a friend Tuesday. Maybe I'll do one of those tomorrow. If
Sure.
you're not on the page, come follow. And when you
Right.
follow, invite a couple friends. If you know anybody who's into true crime, talk to your friends. Like I don't go to the Karen Reed protests, but I talk about her case all the time.
Yeah.
Like
And it's
during the
related.
hearing last week,
It's
I
related.
had somebody here fixing our TV,
Mhm.
and I was talking to him about the case, and I was watching you guys on my phone, and he's like,
Mhm.
"Why are you watching it on my phone?" I go, "Because you're on my damn TV." So he was like, and like even him, he had heard of Karen Reed, but he didn't know
Mhm.
much about the case, and I was telling him about Sandra, and like even he was like, "What?" as things was coming out for
Yeah.
Karen Reed case. Um, if you share like the case, tell people. Also, I recommend people read the report so you see what happened to her. Um, if you're just hearing about this case tonight, a good place to start is go listen to the Case podcast season 2. They did a deep dive on Sandra's case.
Mhm.
Just share. Like I said, I've been getting ever since the Boston Globe article. My social media has like jumped up, and I swear that I sleep with my phone in my hand because there's so many likes, shares, and people
Mhm.
talking to me on Twitter now and other social media. So that's what we need. We need people to engage, to keep talking and pushing the
Right.
story.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's like we need the engagement on these streams because it's very important. When you
Exactly.
engage on something like this, it pushes it out further into the algorithm. We can get it out there more. Okay, Robin G, we'll take a few more here. She says, question, is the medical examiner the same as Officer John O'Keefe's?
No, it's a different medical examiner.
Okay.
I specifically asked after I got denied. I said I went back and asked him. I said, was it the same medical examiner? He said no. And he gave me the name, but I
Dana
can't
said
remember the name.
April
But
6th is the rain date if it gets rained out.
yes, if it's
Okay.
the yes. Thanks, Dana. Dana knows.
Uh hey Paul, how are you? Paul says, hi everyone. Hope everyone came over, sent them over after the show. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that. Let's see. Sanders says serious outrageous. Absolutely. Brenda's asking, did they take DNA from the baby to see who the father was? That's a great question.
I would assume so. I mean, I would assume so, but I don't have the autopsy to prove that they did. But I would assume that they did. I assume that's why they were asking for his DNA
Hmm.
or to see if there was anything under her nails.
Wow. So Sarah is asking, how was this just thrown under the rug? I mean, it's the question. I think Mizzy and I asked the same question, but I mean, obviously, I mean, it's that Canton connection, the Canton connection, and we talked about it. All of those little towns are all connected. They all know everybody, and there's a major issue going on between all those little communities. It's
Yeah.
unreal.
And also, you got to understand that Robert Devine was the deputy chief for a long time before he got demoted after another sex scandal. And was that what just popped up? And so he probably worked closely with Morrissey.
Hmm.
There's a photo of them two together. So that has a lot to do with it too.
Yeah, let me see if I can find the photo really quick. And if you want to take that question, it says, have you contacted any of the mass state trafficking groups for resources and for assistance to get Sandra justice?
Um, no, I have not. I didn't have proof that she was trafficked.
Hmm.
But now after that Globe report, I think more and more that it would specifically fall under the trafficking
Yeah,
laws and rules.
it
So
seems like she was, like you said in that awful headline from the Globe. I mean, she was being passed, literally passed around. Lady Laws have been a member for 8 months. She said, you guys are awesome. Thanks to both. Thanks, Brian.
thank
Absolutely.
you.
It's very hard. I mean, telling you, it's very hard. I don't think people realize, and maybe you go through a lot of this as well too, being just the viewers of the content. But when you're putting this content on and you're putting this stuff together and you live and breathe it every single day like we do, this is very taxing. It's very taxing as people that are really invested in this as the creators who put this stuff forward and have this on your mind all the time. I mean, I sometimes say, gee, I just wish all of this stuff could be over, and we have justice in these cases because we wait, and the wheels of justice, unfortunately, move very, very, very slow.
Very slow.
And that's the taxing thing about this, where we want it, where we feel we know where the case is and how it should stand, but the wheels of justice move absolutely slow. And this is that photo of Divine and Morsi. Yeah. So very close. Very, very close. Let's see if we have a couple more questions here. Let's see. Mizzy, has anyone else from the Explorers program come forward with allegations or information?
Yes, the girl who I told you was saying about earlier in the stream that she was groomed by Divine. She ended up getting kicked out of the Explorers program, and I said her and I talked, and I said she messed up and she did something really stupid that ticked Divine off, and I said that saved you. I said because when she saw what happened with Sandra, it devastated her. She's like, because that could have been me. That was her. She was Sandra. She was 12 when she was in the program, and she was being groomed too. There was a girl who posted, and I implore this girl to come forward. She said she was part of the program, and she posted on the Justice page that she was friends with Sandra, and she knew of 2 other girls that this had happened to. And I messaged her, and I wanted her to, give me more information. She said she made Sandra a promise that she wasn't going to tell anybody about what was going on with Sandra. She warned Sandra about them, but she said that Sandra made her promise. So she said in death she wanted to keep her promise to Sandra. And I said to her, the best thing you could do for Sandra is come forward. And she refused. But she said there were 2 other girls that she knew of. And my question is, when I was going back through the report last night, I've read that report a few times, but when I was going back through it last night, you always find new things.
Of course.
And they said they interviewed some of the people during the program that were in the program. Why haven't they interviewed every child that went through that whole program, whether you were a girl or a boy? Because I know they were kind of, I don't want to say fully abusing the boys, but they were extremely mean to the boys. They would do things that were spiteful and rude and ignorant to the boys that bordered on line abuse. And they were flirty and nice to the girls. So I had a mother come forward to me that her son quit after 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So
it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. So every child from when Divine took over the program to the date the program ended, every child that went through that program needs to be interviewed. And I want the Attorney General to do that. Because I would bet anything that there are a lot more children that went through this program. I'm not saying to the extent of what Sandra got.
Right.
But there were definitely other girls. Because you think of it this way, the girl who was groomed, she had a girl come up to her and say, you need to stay away from Robert because he's mine. So that means this girl thought that Divine was hers. So why would she think that? Because he's building her up.
Yep.
He used to drive around with children in his car. Granted, yes, part of the program was you got to see what it was to be a police officer. But he was driving around with girls in his personal car. Girls were always in his office. Something should have been like,
hey, what's going on?
This is weird.
Right. Yeah, I agree. So Barbara says standout is March 27th from 1 to 4 p.m. across the street from the Stoughton Town Hall. If you would like to get involved, we would appreciate that.
I thought it was the 24th. 23rd.
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 The 23rd, not the 27th.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Saturday. This Saturday coming up.
We might have to move time maybe up a little because I'm paying it close to the weather. And if it rains, we're going to cancel it
Okay.
and
Well,
postpone it till,
again, I think the best thing to do is get involved on the Sandra Birchmore Justice page on Facebook. You
yes.
can look them up there. Mizzy, any last words before we end here, or?
I appreciate you so much for having me on.
Sure.
Sandra's case needs to get out there, get out there, get out there. And I please everybody, before you sign out, like this and tell your
Share
friends
it.
to go on the page, invite friends to join the page, because this case was buried and it really, really needs to get out there. And this could help other children from being abused.
I
Because
agree.
if there are still officers in the police department still there that were abusing children, they need to be gone too.
Absolutely. Mizzy, anytime you want to come back and talk to Sandra Birchmore, please, you're always welcome here on LTL True Crime. Just reach out to me. We'll give you a platform. It's what I'm here for. I'm here to help.
I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Where can they find you on the socials again? Give your socials out so everybody can connect with you.
I'm on Facebook. I have a page called The Mixed Girl in a Mixed Up World. I'm on here. I'm sorry. I'm on YouTube. I have a platform here. My page on Facebook, my regular page, is The Mixed Girl in a Mixed Up World. And then I run the Sandra Birchmore page. And then you can find me on Twitter for Sandra Birchmore at Sandra Birchmore.
Perfect. Well, again, thank you, Mizzy, for taking the time today, this 2 hours, to go through the Sandra Birchmore case. Again, I hope we get some movement in this case. To me, when I look at it, I think to you, when you look at it, the obvious signs are here as to what's going on. I don't know what's taking so long, but again, keep in mind the wheels of justice work slowly, and I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of people now really taking a deeper dive and looking into this and saying, hey, I think there's something wrong here that we need to look into.
And especially with this case, Morrissey put it at a stop.
Yeah. Well, now we have a further investigation going on. It's being picked back up again. And thank God for the, for what's going on in Karen Reed's case, the FBI getting involved now. So this probably lit a fire under some people's asses to really start looking into this. So
yes, definitely.
We will get justice for Sandra. We will get justice for John, and we will certainly get justice for Karen Reed. I want to thank everybody for watching tonight, the LTL True Crime Podcast. Please make sure to subscribe, comment down below, and like. I appreciate all the twits on Twitter, about 700 of you watching over there. I don't know what's going on. Elon Musk, you've been pushing our platforms lately on X. I love it. Thank you. And not to go without here on the home base on YouTube. We had about 345 in the chat tonight. So thank you all so much. We will talk soon, and I'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
LTL True Crime, we go deep in the dark. Peeling back the layers, expose the hidden marks. From the streets to the alleys where the secrets lie. Getting into minds of the wicked, no alibi. LTL True Crime, unraveling the web of evil. No stone left unturned, we dive into the prime. Yeah, we digging up the dirt, bringing justice to the crime. LTL True Crime, unveiling dark realities every time. Yeah, LTL True Crime, we going deep in the dark. Peeling back the layers, expose the hidden march. From the streets to the alleys where the secrets lie. Getting in the minds of the wicked, no alibi. LTL True Crime, unraveling the web of evil. No stone left unturned, we dive into the prime. Yeah, we digging up the dirt, bringing justice to the crime. LTL True Crime, unveiling dark realities every time. LTL True Crime, we go deep in the dark. Peeling back the layers, expose the hidden marks. From the streets to the alleys where the secrets lie. Getting into minds of the wicked, no alibi. LTL True Crime, unraveling the web of evil. No stone left unturned, we dive into the prime. Yeah, we digging up the dirt, bringing justice to the crime. LTL True Crime, unveiling dark realities every time.
Yeah, LTL True Crime, we going deep in the dark. Peeling back the layers, expose the hidden mark. From the streets to the alleys where the secrets lie. Getting into minds of the wicked, no alibi. LTL True Crime, unraveling the web of evil. No stone left unturned, we dive into the prime. Yeah, we digging up the dirt, bringing justice to the crime. LTL, true crime, I'm dealing dark realities every time.